Alright folks, still working on the flatbed project, and I don't know if this is all going to be one video or if I'm going to break it up or what, but in this section of video, or in this video, we're going to be working on the fuel tank filler necks. You can kind of see them hanging. One's front one right there, back one's held up with a bungee cord. One thing I want to point out is I'm really glad doing this. I had a grand idea or a big overall kind of plan before I started, because as you can see, CM, the bed maker, provides this little deal here, and this, if you were using it, you'd knock this plug out for your filler neck, and if it was a diesel, a modern diesel, you'd knock this plug out for probably your exhaust fluid filler. But that does not work for me on my particular pickup, and this is why installing a flatbed most of the time is not a really idiot-proof plug-and-play kind of thing. You do have to think your way through it a bit, because as you can see, my truck has 2 fuel tanks. And not only that, I wanted the frame of the bed as close to the frame of the pickup as I could get it. So ordinarily, what would have happened is a guy would come off the front fuel tank here, make up hoses and adapters and whatnot, and extend it up there to this panel, which is where the filler hole is. The reason that doesn't work for me is that right there. That's a 30-inch long, 14-inch deep toolbox, and I want to put one on each side at the front of the bed. That's where I want it. That's where I'm pretty set on having it. So if I've got a toolbox that comes straight over 14 inches, it's going to come to about right here, which means if I were to try to use this fuel filler, it would not fill properly because the hose is not going to have enough drop angle to run into the tank correctly. You do need to have and pay attention to your drop angle on your fuel hoses, or else you're going to have problems filling up. So after a lot of thought and a lot of consideration, what I've decided to do is, you can see I've got this box pushed all the way up against the front of the bed. I know the box is going to end right about here. My factory filler hose, when it was in the factory bed, would have come up right here. Obviously the factory bed was shaped much differently than this flatbed, so on here it's actually underneath it. So what I'm going to do is, I had these brackets made in town. I could have made them myself, but by the time I went and bought a $15 hole saw and bought $5 or $10 worth of material, and then I don't have a brake to bend it nice and clean like that. I'd have been trying to do it in the vise. Welding shop in town made both brackets for me for about 20 bucks. So that was a much better deal, much better way to do it. What I'm going to do is, I'm going to come straight out here behind where the toolbox is going to end and attach this bracket. I'm going to shape it a little better, clean it up, but I'm going to attach this bracket right in this general area somewhere. And I'm going to take my factory fuel filler and cut it about here and about there. And this part will bolt into the little filler neck bracket I just bought right here. And then I've got some new fuel hose right there. I bought a 2-foot stick of that. Don't need that much, I hope, but we'll see. And I'm just going to basically route this fuel filler over, right here somewhere. And that should, from what I'm looking at, that should give it about the same amount of drop it had with the factory tank. And then I'm going to do pretty much the exact same thing with my rear tank here. I do have a little bit of a concern about that because it's already, pretty snug up against the bed there. We'll just have to see how that plays out. But same deal, I'm going to put a bracket right in here somewhere, cut the fill neck, cut the fill neck. The reason I'm cutting it back here is so I can use this metal piece as kind of a splicer to go from my old filler hose to my new filler hose, because I don't think I've got enough, even with 2 feet. I might have enough to replace all the hose at the back. If I have enough, I'll do it that way. But up here, I'm going to stick with that factory front hose because it's made with that curve in it to come out and back, and no reason not to use that to my advantage. Don't want to try to reinvent the wheel any more than I have to. Alright, so there we go. I didn't film the torch or the grinding or anything. Oh, that's kind of boring. But you can see I took the torch, rounded off the bottom of both of them, drilled a couple of 3/8 holes in the lip here under the bed to mount them. And there we go. The fuel cap filler will come through just like that. And then all I need is a piece of jumper hose. Alright, there we go. I got my filler necks cut and adapted, and I just want to show you here. You can see here's the front. We come in, there's our tube all the way across to our factory hose. That looks like it's going to work pretty well. I'm pretty okay with that one. And then back here's what we did with the rear. You can see there, hose. So here's our final update on the fuel fillers. If you remember earlier in this video, I had them mounted out here on the bed rail, and now they're gone. I took it to the gas station. I tried it with them mounted out here, and it just did not work at all. Coming from out here and out here on the edge with the bracket I had, there was just not enough angle for fuel to run into the tank, and as soon as I clicked on the gas nozzle, it would shut off. It just didn't work. So what I wound up doing is, you can see I moved the front one back. I'm not using any of that additional filler tube I bought. This is all factory parts. I'm using the factory hose. This is the factory fill neck that I cut off just like I had it with the other one. This is how I did the rear. Now, I don't really like the way that hose is collapsed. I had a lot of concerns about that, but the problem is, because of where the bed is mounted height-wise, there's no good way to go around the bed frame. I would have had to have cut it or notched it, and I didn't want to do that if I could avoid it. So it is collapsed a little bit, but it does work extremely well. I took it to the gas station last night, and it fills up as fast as the pump will fill it. One other thing I did, and you'll see that here inside, is from the factory you have that one little hole in the lower right, and there's a plastic tube inside there that runs down into the tank, and what happens is gas flows through this like 1-inch plastic tube into the tank, and then this other inch of space in the filler neck is for air to escape, and the air comes up and comes out that little bitty 1/8 hole on the right. Well, since I did away with the plastic tube, I've got gas going in and air trying to come out in the same area. So I drilled 2 3/8 holes in the top to allow this thing to vent a little bit better. And it made a big difference. I can't say if the improved function is due solely to the increased angle or if the improved function is due to those additional vent holes. But either way, it's working really well. So there you go. That's the filler tubes. Stay tuned, and we'll be wrapping up the rest of this project here before long. Thanks for watching.